Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I believe this is 283. We had to pivot because Adam is going to have to reschedule. He had a family thing come up. If you follow him on Twitter, you know, so just sending Adam and his family prayers for sure. So today we're doing a family meetup. So there are people here who've come, and I haven't ever gotten to meet in person, but I'm really excited to talk to them today. And then there are people who I've talked to, and Carol Ann I probably know the best because she was one of my students and she's in my mastermind group. So there are people that hopefully we'll all get to know each other. That's one of the things I like about Design Recharge is that you do get to come live and you get to ask questions, and hopefully you feel like you are part of the family. So if you want to join in, feel free just to tell me or Brian in the chat, and then we will pop you on screen with us. We can have up to 50 people, but I'm just so thankful I'm not alone. So thank you for being my friends today. So I'm going to start at the bottom because they're at the bottom for me. So Naomi, she just took a sip. So Naomi is going, Brian, how about you start, and then Naomi will come in. And then because
okay,
you know fine. This, we do this enough. So just tell where you are, what you do, and then something interesting about you.
Okay. I'm Brian White. I run Triline Studios and Brian White Design and Prayer for Designers. And so I wear a lot of hats, but I'm just outside of Kansas City, west in Lawrence, Kansas, where University of Kansas is, and where basketball was invented. I think that's probably good enough. So.
And you paint and
yes,
you printmaking.
I paint. So.
Okay. All right. So Naomi, how about you?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay. I'm Naomi G. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and I just launched my independent design company in September last year. So I'm a newbie at doing this solo, and I've been chiming into this podcast for probably the better part of a year, and I'm finally getting to join live. I'm really excited about that. So, yeah.
Well, cool. So what's something interesting, like something outside of maybe design that we can be like, oh yeah, that's Naomi. She likes tea or something.
That's funny. Yeah. So I collect mugs. I just got this one, which I was really excited to find for like $3.
Hey, that's great. Is it a tin cup?
No, it's ceramic.
Oh. Yeah. It looks like those old tin cups, you know?
Yeah, it kind of does, but much more giant, it feels like.
It does. Or either you're very small. She's very small and this is a really big cup. Well, Naomi, thanks so much for joining. I'm super excited to get to meet you. And I'm excited that you're, since September, have been on your own. So can't wait to talk more about like that. Okay, so now we're going to go to Taylor in Illinois.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm working at University of Illinois as a strategic designer here. And I also do a little bit of freelance and do some illustration. An interesting fact about myself is that I have a pet giant tortoise.
Ooh, how big?
Right now, he's not giant. He's like this big. He will be giant.
So will you have space? Oh, does he have a name? Doc wants to know.
Oh, yeah. His name is Yuri.
Oh, nice.
The first man in space. I think he was like a Russian stunt devil.
That's awesome. So will you have to take him outside, or will he just have a room in your house at some point?
Oh, yeah. Once he gets big, he like lives in your yard.
Oh,
it's like an outdoor pet. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Carly, you're next.
Okay, I'm Carly. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. I'm one of the stupid dogs, if you can hear them. I'm from Cleveland. I'm an artist and author. I'm working on publishing my first book soon. I make a lot of polymer clay sculptures, and I like to photograph them.
Yes, and she does great photographing them as well. So how many dogs do you have?
2. I have a Boston Terrier and a Pit Bull.
Is the Boston the one barking?
They're both barking. They're not used to hearing me speak inside, so I think it's throwing them off.
Okay. All right. Well, Josh Lewis, you're next, and then we're going to pop down to Lorenzo.
Nice. All right. Hey, I'm Josh Lewis, like she just said. I'm a illustrator and graphic designer. I specialize in the children's market, so illustrating picture books, games, and stuff for magazines, stuff like that. Interesting fact, only because it's top of mind, is that my great-great-grandfather was named Oscar Hunt von Gottschalk, and he was a children's book author and illustrator in the early 1900s. So that's that.
That's pretty interesting. So last week I was showing a video to my students about this tablet that I got that's over there. Anyway, and I'm watching this video and this guy's talking and he moves his head and I'm like, there's Josh's space poster. I'm like, oh my gosh. I took a screenshot and then I sent him a text and I was like, your poster's in a video.
Yeah.
And he knows that guy. So it was funny, but not funny, I guess. But I was like, oh my gosh, I know that poster. So clearly I can tell by y'all's faces that you don't really think that's interesting. So, okay. All right, Lorenzo, can you tell us about you?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay, good. My name is Lorenzo Kirkpatrick, and I'm here in Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm a freelance graphic designer, web designer, illustrator. You can check out my artwork at kirkcartoons.com.
Spell it.
KIRKCARTOONS.com. And
So why Kirk?
It's my first part of my last name, and some people call me Kirk as a nickname.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. You're just 4 hours away from me.
Yeah. I should come and visit you, or you can come.
You should, for sure.
Lunch.
All right. So, what's something unique and different about you? Anything that's not maybe design related? Like, do you have a giant tortoise?
No, I don't. Every pet I had ends up dying. Maybe that's the interesting thing. Every pet I've had died.
Like died quickly, or just regular lifetime.
I think I'm just not good at
I'm not good with plants. Well, Lorenzo, I'm glad because now I get to see your face and it connects. It helps me connect better when I see them coming in. So I'm glad, really glad to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, Josh, my first Josh that popped in. Josh, and starts with a Gooch.
Yeah, Gooch. That's it. Again, Josh Gooch. I live a little bit closer near Greensboro, but I work in a town called Albemarle, North Carolina, which is probably closest to Charlotte in terms of any sort of kind of waypoints that people can familiarize themselves with. And I'm the program head at the community college for the advertising and graphic design program. As far as, I don't know, something interesting, let's say outside of design work, which again, I try and do as much freelance as I can, is I do a lot of concert photography for an online publication.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. That's a unique thing. You don't have any pets that you kill regularly, right?
No.
Don't be like me.
All right. So Carol Ann, end us off. So Carol Ann's not in Alabama anymore.
No, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I hear you good.
I used to be in Mobile. I moved up to Washington State about 3 years ago, and we were on Whidbey Island for a while. I just moved down to Seattle. So right now I'm doing freelance, and then I'm trying to make a transition from print and branding into visual UI, UX. So
what are you doing to get ready to do that?
I met with David O'Hara this morning.
Did? Oh, yeah, you did? That's terrific.
He was a joy, and he gave me so much advice. So,
and he's
I'm about to redo my website.
He's good to meet up with on a regular basis. I know Brian knows David. Mm-hmm. Maybe Josh. Did you get to meet Josh Lewis? Did you get to meet him at Creative South?
I don't think so.
Well,
I met a lot of people, but that does not come to mind. Or he does not come to mind.
so David is. Amy said David. Yes, that's right, Mark from Axon. But he was from Pensacola. Okay, anyway, back to Carol Ann. So you met with him, but one of the things I told you, I introduced her to him because they're in the same area, and I know David's really good about connecting, but he wants to connect on a regular basis, not just like one-time coffee, which I think is terrific because then you'll have these friends for your whole career, you know?
Yeah, definitely. We took a look at my LinkedIn profile and we looked at my portfolio, and he gave me some tips, and then he invited me to like 3 different Slack groups and showed me some other people that I need to connect with, and showed me some meetups and mentorship programs. So yeah, it was really helpful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long do you think it'll take for you to transition?
I guess it depends on, I'm trying to find jobs right now that are willing to train me a little bit while I'm doing my own training. So I'm doing Skillshare classes, I'm doing Lynda classes, and I'm kind of just working on old portfolio pieces and kind of doing practice stuff. So some of the branding projects that I did freelancing, I'm like adding apps to, or redoing the website kind of, and adding some other stuff that more relates to that. So I'm trying to find a job right now that might take me in as a little bit less than what I think my experience level is, at least as a print designer. So I'm just trying to see, it's about just convincing people like I can do the job, like the stuff that you can do for the stuff that you learn doing print design translates so easily into digital. And so it's really just convincing someone that like it's just learning a new program, and even then they're so similar that it's not really that hard to pick up on.
So Carol Ann and I are in a mastermind group, which we talked about, and so I know I haven't sent out the little things, but I am. So Taylor, I know I owe you an email along with some other people who aren't here as well. But one of the things that's great about mastermind, one of the reasons that I started the one I'm in, was because Carol Ann was in a transition time. She was working from, she was doing freelance, but then she was also kind of like doing some retainer clients that were more than, I guess, obviously retainer. And you could I just knew Carol Ann was lonely, right?
Yeah.
It was just because you were working alone and you had been at an agency, and so it's a lot different. And so I feel like there's some benefits about working at a place, right? So Brian's a kind of working alone, I guess, unless his cat comes in, right?
Yeah.
And Josh, you're working alone at home. I mean, it's not like Carly's working alone. Obviously, we have 3 people that are maybe, and Naomi's working alone. I mean, just the people I can see right here. Josh Gooch is not. He's at a university, as well as Taylor, which I think is really interesting that you're both there. And Amy Drill works at a university. There's a group that there's the University College Design Association. Do you guys, Taylor and Josh, do y'all know about that one?
I just learned about it, but missed the conference. So I'll have to convince my boss to take us next year.
Yeah, so that may be a great place, because sometimes just connecting with people who are doing the same thing. And that was what I think was an issue really for Carol Ann, was that she was just alone, and she had been used to being with all these people, and the energy is different, and then trying to manufacture that. And so Carol Ann, you did something that a lot of people do. You did a co-working space.
Yeah, but it was 45 minutes from where I was. So that was, but because I worked on we were living in a really tiny town. So there was just nothing else. And the closest communal working space was 45 minutes away. So that got
go there a couple days a week only, right? You didn't go every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was going especially when my husband was deployed, I was there a lot. I was there every day because I didn't want to be home alone. But once he got back, yeah, it was less.
So Naomi, what about you? So since September, what were you doing before September? Were you working in a company?
Yeah, I was working for an engineering firm, and I was actually doing their marketing coordination, but lots of event management. And I had taken a really long break from graphic design when I first started after college. I had a really nasty boss who basically like demeaned everything I did. And I turned into kind of his assistant instead of a graphic designer. I would like run to the supermarket and get him a soda. Like that was part of my job. I just was really naive at the time and just thought, oh my gosh, this is what it's like to be a graphic designer. I'm out. And so I took like a 7-year break, and I ended up working for my church for 5 years and really evolved that role into being a graphic design role. So I did all of their, sermon cover art. I did all their website maintenance. I didn't create it, but I did their maintenance. I did all their bulletins, the stuff churches need.
Right.
And my husband and I just had a big conversation one year about like, where do we want our careers to go? And I expressed I really miss graphic design. Like I wish I was doing this full time. And so he encouraged me to just go search for something else. And I ended up at an engineering firm, and I did a lot of PowerPoint design, which turned out not to be my favorite. But I actually turned the marketing. They knew I wanted to do design, but they didn't have an opening for a designer. So I was doing their marketing stuff. And it turns out I'm not a marketing guru either. And so they hired a design director, and I started being his production assistant mainly, and they realized they needed somebody to be doing the marketing. So it was actually their idea, hey, can you go start your own company and contract with us instead, because we can't have a full-time designer, but we could contract with you, but we just need to replace you because we need someone doing the marketing. And so I am contracting still with them right now, but I also joined a co-working space that has a weekly meetup. So I get to be with other designers and kind of check in with our goals every week.
That's great. Where are you?
What's that?
Where are you?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
So you should connect with Karina, who's also in Portland, but I'll make sure I get your email and we'll connect. Okay. So she's in our mastermind group. That's why, it's not like you live anywhere near Carol Ann, I know, but you're sort of in the same.
Well, it's like general. 4 hours.
See, yeah, I was best friends.
I was really feeling connected when you were talking, because I am also in a suburb, so I'm 45 minutes actually away from my co-working space. So that's why I'm home today. I actually had a check-in with them this morning, and I just had to call in because I just didn't make it out the door in time, and so I was going to be late. So 45 minutes is so much longer than it sounds when you're doing it every day.
Does anybody else work in a co-working space at all? Ever? Okay. So Jordan says he'll be visiting Portland in April. So that's awesome. Okay. So it looks like, with Josh Gooch, do you have other people that you work with, right?
Oh yeah, I'm in a whole building of other instructors and all sorts of people. Obviously students all day, every day.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like that's who I work with and not students. Or not work, fellow professors or whatever. So anyway, so there's also a group just for professors, and I don't know if you know, it's on Facebook it's like you just have to be a graphic design instructor somewhere. So and we share all kinds of resources. Do you want me to connect with them?
Yeah, I love the Adobe Education Exchange for that, but no, I'm not familiar with the Facebook group.
So I will, if you email me, then I will put you in. We'll get to be Facebook friends, and then I'll add you. Nice. I'll suggest to my friend Scott to add you in, and then hopefully he'll be able to do that. So the only reason, if you're hearing feedback, it's because somebody doesn't have earbuds in, and sometimes that makes it so we're hearing me through or them through whoever speakers don't have earbuds. Anyway, that's the only thing. So yes, I think if I hear something, I don't know if that was, anyway. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was doing this continuing educating, and then also when you're learning something, like Carol Ann's learning UX UI, and then she's pivoting, or she may decide to just do one thing or just do app design or something. So because sometimes when we start learning, going down a path, it takes us somewhere else. And I would tell Carol Ann, look into General Assembly. That's what Hiba did.
Oh, right.
And she's been doing, she's on Adobe Live right now, I think. If they're live, right? But General Assembly is a good resource for UX UI, and she took some General Assembly courses, and then it's a little bit deeper dives than maybe Skillshare. But I think that, it's just kind of like finding some paths to go down, but that's another one. So do any of y'all, what else what's an experience you've had that you've been learning something and then you decided either, oh, this wasn't for me, or you were like, I think I'm going to dig deeper into this one specific area. Does that happen to anybody? All right. So Josh, tell us.
For me, I've felt personally like it's been important to learn coding, and I'm comfortable with HTML, CSS, but I want to get more on the interactive coding side. And so, I had some fellow instructors here on campus that could point me to some resources, even let me in one of their classes. And we were trying to learn a language. And what I learned pretty quickly about trying to learn a language is I just needed programming fundamentals. I needed to start way, way back before even tackling a language. So, and that's happened to me in other scenarios as well, where I feel like I need to learn something, but don't know the history or, let's say, the foundational components to really learn what I think I need to learn.
So what are you doing to learn it? What are you using?
Mostly online resources from the standpoint of just fundamentals of programming. There's actually a good, what is it? Is it edX, EEDX, where you can go get the free, massive classes. There is actually a good just kind of intro to computer science class on there that's been quite helpful.
So it's like, Brian, weigh in on this. What do you feel like about learning code and then also doing design?
Like the pivoting part of it is like where I would get to a point and I'd realize I either don't like this, or I could get another contractor and make more money and have them do it than me, and then focus on stuff that I like better. So, I looked into JavaScript and I pulled back pretty quickly, but I was like with Shane Helm, way back building sites in 97. So in 2006, we had to do a full shift pivot, almost, sorry, to CSS. And that was like a whole new thought process. But everyone coming in now is like, what? You didn't have CSS before that? Like, what did you do? Oh, yeah, it was all in line. Yeah. So, sorry, what was the question?
But here's one thing with Brian. He's constantly learning new things. He's also always trying to make his workflow better. So, but he is quick to kind of like see if it's not for him. So how fast did you realize that JavaScript wasn't for you?
Probably half a day. Yeah, I like, I would do a sprint, like a 2-hour sprint, and then have some coffee. I came back and I was like, I didn't make it through the second sprint. So I was like, yeah, that's not for me. But I love knowing basic HTML, CSS, and like where things go, and like if there's a tag that's missing or something, and like being able to look at the code and know if it's just junk or not. So, yeah. Right.
But you also are able to kind of determine if, because you used, what's that thing? Not Fusion. What's that?
Figma. Figma. Yeah, that was a big pivot for me last January. I like David O'Hara, like, I'm not sure what he's doing, because I have a client that's like direct competitor of his, so we like don't talk about UI sometimes. But I was using Sketch, and then what is the other one? I was not using XD back then because it was so bad. But then InVision, I was testing that out, but Sketch, like, it just became so clunky, and there were so many plugins, and it would crash, and it was just like, there's a better way to do this. So Eddie from Unfold was telling us about Figma last year.
He has a last name though.
Yeah.
I can't think of what his last name is.
But anyway, it was like, he said, learn Figma. And I was like, okay. So I jumped on, and then Sean Moynihan is really good. Just like you can collaborate on it. So he came in and was showing me some component levels and symbols and stuff. And so then I was like, I'd actually forced myself to do a fake project because I didn't have someone to do it right then, or a project. And it took me like 3 weeks. But through that process, I learned I learned Figma and realized how much stronger it was than Sketch or XD. So it was good. So it's a pivot, but it was a lot of late nights. So
that's the problem I'm having, is trying to figure out what app I need to learn or what program. Because I got Sketch. I did Sketch for a little bit. I already had Creative Cloud, so I was doing XD. I just downloaded InVision. So I need to do Figma too.
How do you decide, and why? What would be some advantages? So, because this is the problem. You think you're going to just learn this one thing, and then it just blows up, and you're like, oh my goodness, there's all these doors to go down. So Brian, how do you decide, and how do you continue to keep learning? And then, because obviously, Carol Ann, we have to know what your end goal is. Is your end goal to continue to freelance and just do this, or is your goal to have some skills so that you can do a full-time job in media?
The latter.
Okay, so Mark says he also wants to learn Figma. Mark in Bermuda.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the answer, Brian? Sorry.
Well, I think you have to, it kind of depends on how you want to approach it, because like one of the agencies we work with in Maryland, or outside of DC, they've been at Adobe. And so I've been doing Photoshop with them for like 6 years. And I'm like, I can't do Photoshop anymore for you. We have to do Sketch because this is ridiculous. And so then as Figma came across, we started collaborating directly with them. And now XD, they were more Adobe centric. And so I was looking into Adobe, and actually I forced myself to do another project, a bus company we're working on right now, but in XD, and the fluidity is there for animation, and they've done a lot of neat stuff. They've copied Figma, of course, and some other ones, but there's some major topography issues. And so this is like, it kind of depends on, it's like you can't do all uppercase or like set.
Or a bulleted list.
Oh, no, there's no bulleted list in anything right now. So it's stupid. But the idea is like, what's most, like if you're trying to get a job, what are most people using right now in agencies or the places like design studios you want to work at? So obviously Sketch is out there, and if you know Sketch, like 80% of Figma. The 20% that's way better is in Figma. So,
so it's not like if I learn one, I can't learn the rest. So if I
think if you shot at all four, you'd be kind of mediocre. So it's like I would work at two that are more broad, like probably XD, because they are working on it. They're going a lot faster than they usually do. I think they're getting their butt kicked. So maybe XD and Figma. Because then if you know Figma, then you can jump into Sketch. It's just got a weird system. So.
And what about InVision? I haven't even opened that one yet.
I don't like it.
No? Okay.
I think InVision is like for like creative directors who, I don't know. I'm not going to speak into that one. So
I can cut that out.
Yeah. No, I didn't say anything bad about it.
No,
you
didn't. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Okay, so what other areas? So like Josh Lewis in illustration, where have you been able to, like, you think, oh, I'm going to do this, and then you pivot? Because you were just a regular designer and then you started illustrating for your job. So can you talk about a pivot that you made in that situation?
Yeah, as far as like from design to
or in illustrate, or even within illustration. So going from paper to the iPad, or
so I've mostly done digital illustration, but I still keep a sketchbook. So recently I do a lot of personal projects. So if you're not familiar with my work at all, And so this latest personal project, I forced myself to do the whole thing in Procreate, this little mini picture book that I'm posting on Instagram. And my workflow got all jacked up because Procreate's pretty different from Photoshop. It's really great. But some of the things like constantly having brushes up and constantly having my color palette up kind of threw me off a little bit, but I found some workarounds. I was using Brad Woodard's mid-century brush pack from Retro Supply Company, and that was like a game changer as far as like being able to do the project to begin with. There's a lot of gouache effects and brushes in that, so it's a little trial and error. I still want to keep digging in because I really think everything's heading towards the iPad illustration wise, and once Photoshop, full-blown version of Photoshop sometime this year from Adobe, I think that'll be, once they can perfect that, I think Cintiqs will be a little more scarce, only for like the big mega, only big companies that need like bigger screens to draw on. But
or like
so that's been good.
Animation, they'll still probably use
Right.
the Cintiq, right? Because it just it's a tool that's really good for them. But
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, and then just from there, I mean, I've been pressing in. I mean, the depths of illustration, I think I'll be working on the rest of my life. But just like the fine art of storytelling and getting into writing as well. But it's just like, how do you transcend, the nuts and bolts, the tools of, well, this is how I get this effect. It's like, how do you transcend and how do you make somebody feel something, whether it's humor or heartfelt moments? How do you get that expression out into your character? And that kicks my butt every time. But it's just continuing after each personal project to like make lists of like, here's what I learned, here's what didn't go so well, here's where I can get better, and just keep pressing in and pressing in. So
I think that's critical for any type of design. If you're doing like Carol Ann and you're doing UX, or you're doing the pivot, Amy says she's doing the pivot to UX UI, but it's really about, I think some of that's the strategy, that how do you get the person to feel this, or how do you get this action if you're in UX UI. So it can't just be that you're a widget turner or you just do this one thing. It is about telling the story. It is about that deeper part, I think. So I have a question for Naomi again. So because this seems really interesting that you took a 7-year kind of hiatus and then you come back, what was like a big pivot for you in your learning?
Like what helped me get back in a like creative flow?
Yeah. So like going from, I mean, you were still doing stuff for your church, which I think was, you were doing design stuff. They just didn't know maybe it was design. So you were kind of getting back into it. But then what, where did you make, because coming back to design after 7 years, sometimes it's like, oh, Brian had to go get his kids. Bye, Brian. So what was that step? What was that, did you do anything? Did you do any classes? Did you just jump right back in, or were you still always kind of using the tools?
Yeah, that's a good question, because during the time I was working for my church, I was doing, the bare minimum is probably the wrong thing to say, but like I wasn't actively learning new things. I was just applying what I knew already. And so when I decided I wanted to actually pursue design as my career again, I was really nervous that all of my information was outdated. So the first thing I wanted to make sure is that I actually knew how to use like the current Adobe programs, because I was working on CS5. So I just did some Googling to make sure like how much has changed. And then I did like on 1.5 speed Lynda courses of just basic like InDesign Illustrator stuff, to be like, am I completely delusional to think I can go back to this after not pursuing continued education? You
obviously found you weren't delusional. It is, you can go back to it, right?
Right, yeah. So then I started binge watching like Lynda courses, which is probably not the best thing to do because you're not super learning if you're not hands-on. But I was just kind of just wanting to drink information through a fire hose for a while to just see, like, is this actually what I want to start doing? Because I haven't had my mind in this place for a long time. And so, and then I stumbled on Von Glitchka's like creating surface pattern Linda course, and I like fell in love with surface patterns. And so then I watched his on like half speed so I could like actually do something while I was watching his course. And so I don't actually know if I finished his course because I got so immersed in like creating my own patterns. But because of that, just wanting to like get myself in the rhythm of like creative thinking every day, I set a personal project to do a 60-day challenge where I was working. I felt really time constrained since I was working full time. So I said for 30 minutes every day, I'm going to work on a pattern. So whether that's digital or just sketching it out, I'm just going to post every
pattern love, right? On Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm clicking in. It's coming together. Okay.
That's me. Yes. And so that 60 days really like opened my eyes that I love surface pattern design. And so now, you know, that was probably 9 months before I actually launched my business. And so I wasn't in the mindset of like, maybe this can be a thing that I do. But now I'm trying to figure out ways, you know, every time I get a new client to work with patterns. And then I've also launched an Etsy store and like a Society 6 just to try to like push my patterns out there and see what happens.
So another reason now I want to connect you to Karina is she always does great in her brands. She does these great patterns. She always will create a pattern for if she's doing a new brand for somebody. So that's one way for sure. And then our other friend Jody, who's in our mastermind group, she was a textile designer. So that's all she really did was patterns.
Yeah.
She's going to be on the show in, I don't remember, sometime soon. But she is, I think she's going to do a little side video with me about creating these seamless patterns. Cause I think, and it's different like in Illustrator as it is in Photoshop. Cause she does more in Photoshop, but anyway, she's in Idaho. So not that far, but not that close.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alan, who is here in the chat, and he was one of our students, he also does patterns. So you guys should follow each other. So Alan, write down your Instagram in the chat, and then you are Pattern Love, right? Or Patterned?
Sorry, I muted it because I think I'm part of the feedback issue. Yeah, patterned, like past tense. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Howell _I draw is Alan's.
Oh yeah, we follow each other already.
Oh, well, perfect.
Yeah.
Because he does a lot of patterns too, and I think it's always good to kind of, if you're niche down, if you found something you really love, it's good to kind of figure out. But like when I've done some courses online, the Lila Rogers or some other ones, they really want you to make a pattern in something. So you may be making some illustrations. I don't know if you ever do this, Josh Lewis, or not, but if you do a pattern or if you do a illustration and then you create a pattern, like maybe if you were doing a real physical book, you know how they'll do a pattern sheet on the left or the inside pages?
Yeah, those are called end pages. But yeah, I've done those. Mm-hmm.
Good to know. All right, so I have a question. I'm gonna get back to you, Taylor. You're gonna be my last question, but I have a question for Carly. So Carly does these. You know, I've shown you my beaver, right? I mean, he's so cute. He's not focused. Really want you to focus on him, but anyway. He is made of polymer clay, and then she does all these amazing things, but then she does this photography. So Carly, I don't know if you have anything you have on your desktop that you could pull up so that people can see kind of, or Instagram, or I could do it, I guess, but what, I can pull it up if you want.
I'll physically go there. Oh gosh.
Okay, that would be great. So when did you learn photography and how did you pivot into that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I guess I've been a Photoshop hobbyist since about 2007. And, but actually how I got into polymer clay was a little bit of a pivot. I was working at a bakery and as a cake decorator. So I did a lot of, like fondant sculptures, and that was by far my favorite thing to do, more so than like drawing the cakes. I'd like to just sculpt things. And I just didn't get to do it a lot at work though, because the price point was really high and we were kind of a lower cost bakery. But yeah, I was like, you know what? I think that's a lot like polymer clay. I could do it myself just for fun. So I did, and ended up just kind of building a business. I did a lot of wedding care, which still do. Sell a lot of wedding cake toppers. So it's more like an art, sort of like fine art sort of sculpture thing. I can show you my my wall of stuff though. Is,
yes.
Like this is, that's probably isn't very good. Here's a guy without, but so I just.
So you'll make them, and then do you keep all of them, and then you use them in like a set shot for things?
Yeah, I actually oh, here's some. This is Wilhelm Grimm. But yeah, I'll make these characters, and then I've got like a photography like setup where I'll kind of pose them in these little shots, and then kind of make scenes that way. So it's kind of like Alicia Cologne's type of style, except I don't use paper, I use clay. So it's kind of building the illustration from.
So how long have you been doing it?
Well, I got into it when I was just selling character sculptures, and just posting it on Instagram for fun. So I'm gonna say probably like 2010 is when I started photographing my stuff, but it was mainly for sale, you know, to promote it as like a sale item online and to kind of show my work to get people to buy the sculptures. I guess I've kind of pivoted from that since, where I really have a vision of something of trying to take the characters and turning them into something that's, I guess, in a 2D format versus just in the figurines, just to make it more scalable and just kind of still keep the same vibe of just the character design and kind of what Josh was talking about before, of just the kind of communicating that that feeling and that energy, and kind of do that. But
so I want to show them some of the photography, because I do really believe that the photography really can sell kind of what you're talking about. So you create this scene, and it's funny. You always have great humor with them. Oh, there's your dog. Your dog's and I'm just clicking through. I should probably do this. So let me see. So obviously there's my beaver in an awesome little scene, but it's like creating that part, the sticks and the you know, it's those, not my illustration, your thing's way better than mine.
Oh, but that was so cute. That was totally your inspiration for it. I just loved the kind of happy, sweet feeling that you do when you showed us your illustrations. I'm like, oh, I'd really like to try to see if I could capture that like 3-dimensionally. It's kind of as a different sort of challenge, but
well, you totally
inspired by your
made him. You made him so cute, but like the sticks and the blue and the green, and knowing the depth of field, and really kind of, because you're dealing with these small pieces, and this isn't just the only one you've done, but to me, you had to really embrace photography and understand it to be able to do the things that you do, not just the sculptures, but it's also, you do create these scenes in that 2D realm.
Yeah, I had to, there was a learning curve of trying to get my photography to look technically better, and I'm still learning how to kind of master lighting and that kind of thing. What should be digitally composited versus what I need to build in the scene.
Which do you like? I mean, do you still like building the scenes better than taking the photos?
No, I like it all. It's kind of, I really like this process because it kind of is a culmination of everything I really love. I'm making a book that kind of has an educational bent to it. My background is actually not in design. I'm a Spanish teacher. So my background's more in education, and then, but just kind of as a lover of art stuff, just kind of took the things I like. I like character design. I like sculpting. And I really like humor and playing with the scenery. So it's just trying to always figure out how to try to improve my skills in all those areas simultaneously, and learning how to write better. So it's a lot.
We always have so many things that we're trying to do. So, Taylor, at your university, how many other designers are there?
I'm not sure the university as a whole. It's University of Illinois, so it's huge. But on my team, there's another designer and a creative director, and a strategist and 2 web developers. And we're a creative team for the university, kind of as a whole. So we have people come to us with their needs who like don't have their own marketing teams within their departments. And we do kind of like contract basis work for them. So it's still kind of like, I used to be in an agency. So it's still a little bit like an agency where we have like clients, but they're all playing for the same team.
Right.
So it's like a weird hybrid of in-house and like agency.
Yeah. So, okay. So then after work, I was talking to somebody yesterday and they were like, oh, when I get off work, I'm just done. You know, I can't really. And so I think like Carly and Josh and these people who this is all you're doing, Naomi, this, when all you're doing is this stuff, how do it's not as painful to work longer or on the weekends or something, I guess. But for you, so you're tired, maybe, I mean, I really like my job, but sometimes I get tired. So how do you keep the motivation? What do you do to keep, because you still do freelance and then you do illustration. So how do you keep that going?
I think the biggest thing that helped is I was at an agency, a marketing agency full-time, where I was working 60 to 80-hour weeks. And then I traded it for this job where I work 40-hour weeks. So that's a built-in 20 hours that I'm like used to keep working. And I've just kind of switched that over to like my own stuff, like working on illustration and like the occasional freelance stuff. But
so it was like somebody made you a slave, and so now you can't get out of not being
yeah.
a slave. You have to keep going.
Yeah, now I'm just like a glutton for punishment. But I do select my freelance clients very carefully as far as design goes. I only do things that like sound like they would be fun to me. If someone comes to me and they're like, we need you to program 50 banner ads, I'm like, maybe find someone else, like, unless you're going to give me the money and make it worth my time. But
so then where have you seen, like either at work or in your side gig, where have you seen in learning, how have you pivoted and what have you like dug into that you're like, maybe I'll keep going on this? Or like Brian with JavaScript, like after 2 hours, I'm done.
I'm currently learning illustration. So I'm doing a lot of SVS courses, and I just signed up for my first live class because I think it's really helpful to like actually have people to talk to and bounce your ideas off of. But I love SVS because they also have a forum. So even if I'm not doing something, or if I'm going through a class that maybe some of the other people on the forum have gone through, I can post my stuff there and ask them for feedback. So that's really helpful. But that's kind of what I've been digging into recently is like getting some skills in illustration.
That's cool. So how about you, Lorenzo? What have you done with either in cartoon or in just as a freelancer?
Well, I first got into graphic design doing website design. And this was many years ago before there was WYSIWYG. And so you had to hand code everything. So I've been doing that for years. And
so bread and butter was really web design?
Yeah, it was. It really was. And all that time I kind of let my drawing go. And, you know, up until then I've been doing drawing even when I went to school. My major was art studio, doing drawing, figure drawing, and you know, learning how to perfect my drawing and painting. And recently, a few years ago, I've decided, you know, I'm really not happy doing web design. All the time I've been learning how to do the CSS style sheets and how to do the JavaScript, put that all together, and learning a little bit of the PHP and all that coding.
The stuff that makes you cry.
Yeah, it was frustrating to me, and I decided, I really don't like doing this, which is kind of crazy because I love coding to make a video game. I have a mobile game on iOS and Android. I
Oh,
love
fun.
coding for that.
So what's the difference, do you think? So really you went down a rabbit hole that you really enjoyed for gaming, but you didn't enjoy for web. So what was really,
Yeah.
what was a pain point in the web that wasn't a pain point in the gaming?
With the web, it seemed like a lot of back and forth, back and forth. Let me try and do this. That didn't work. Okay, let me try this. That didn't work. Let me try this. Okay, that worked, but why did it work?
Oh yeah, I know. There's a lot of magic.
Yeah. Whereas with the game development, it was like, okay, let me code this in. Okay, I see what it's doing. Let me make an adjustment to make it better. It seemed like me and the game coding clicked better.
And what language is it?
I'm using C#.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm using a game engine called Unity, and it uses C#.
That's cool.
And it's a harder language to learn, but I love it. So that's not something I'm doing to make money right now. It'd be great if I did, but
maybe you will. Sometimes those side projects, just like Carly was making fondant sculptures, and now she's full-time doing her these sculptural illustrations.
Yeah, trying to figure out how to monetize what you have fun doing. I think that's the trick.
So Mark has a question for you, Lorenzo. He says, so why not back in programming, out of curiosity? Mark doesn't know that.
As far as the web design stuff,
as opposed to front end, if you like code or C#.
See, I was doing some of the back end and I didn't like it.
Oh.
Yeah, the front end was better, but it was still just frustrating. I think the CSS and trying to merge that with the JavaScript and merge that with the HTML was just burning me out, and I wasn't enjoying it. And yeah, you can do the back end with C# as well, but again, it's web design.
So there was something that was painful to you.
It wasn't fun, It wasn't
Right.
fun anymore, Doing the game design, that was fun.
So I don't know if you guys saw, but Kevin Cates came in, and Kevin, I was telling Josh, who doesn't have a last name. I mean, he does have a last name, but not on here. There's two Joshes, not Josh Lewis. They both maybe are a little phallically challenged. We can't hear you, buddy. Your thing's muted. Bottom left-hand corner. Okay, there you go. So you know that Facebook group for teachers, for graphic design teachers?
Yes, ma'am.
So Josh, he's in a blue shirt. He wants to join. So his last name is Gooch, but I don't know how to spell that. So anyway, Kevin, there he did. So Kevin is one of the administrators of that group. So Kevin, tell us a little bit about you so that you won't know anybody else, but we will know you. So tell us about you.
Okay. Well, I am a associate professor of design at UA Little Rock, Arkansas. Kind of the sole graphic design professor here, which is not very fair to the students, I think. They're not getting a full experience, but that's not my problem. I've been in education for about 12 years, 13, this is my 13th year. I've been a designer for about 22 years, just pretty much doing everything. I don't really
loves letterpress.
I do, yeah, and actually that's kind of been my thing right now as I'm studying as an apprentice under John Horn, who is a letterpress artist here and owns the largest wood type collection in the United States next to Hamilton. And so I'm an apprentice with him, and that's kind of where I'm forgetting that I have to do all this other stuff because I just want to letterpress, do nothing else. So big love there. Been doing it for about 7 months. So yeah, kind of all over the place.
What did he teach you that you told us at that conference that just was so funny? Can you share that with us? It was what he said to you. It was.
Was it about kerning?
I think so.
About, well, I don't know. It's about people that kern. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't remember. I just remember it was so like you could not believe that man said that to you. Or no, he said, and you've been a designer for 20 years or something, and you don't know.
Yeah.
He's just very
Yeah, he pretty much he's a grumpy old man, but he's brilliant, and he pretty much every time I see him, he puts me down. He just rips me to shreds every time I see him. I was designing one day. I was working. I'm not really good with color. I'm horrible at color. I like Pantones, but I really don't know color palettes very well, and it's a big weakness. So I walked in there and I was like, all right, I'm ready to print. I'm ready to do this. He's like, all right, what color do you want? I go, I don't know. I'm not sure. And he just like slams the stuff down. And he just says, come and effing get me when you know what color you want. And he just like stormed off. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to be doing for the next 4 years, you know? So it was, but you figure he's one of these kind of people that if you want to, he would rather you do it and mess up than ask him questions. So I get on there and I've almost broken equipment and I just really quickly shuffle around and, you know, and then call him in. So he's not a very warm, caring person, but he's very brilliant. He's very loyal. So anyway, you know, that's how that is. But he did make a comment that he said people that kern type are people that would F-word sheep. So
yeah, hang on, I'll show you these things that you letterpress these, didn't you? These books.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
I've just got to find them. I think they're over there. No, they're right here.
Okay.
So there's a bad word. So Mom, close your eyes. And if you, I didn't want to use them because they're so neat. So he did this one, which I think is funny.
I love that.
So on the back it says Draplin. I can't read it because it's backwards for me. But
yeah, Draplin Wisdom letterpress printed on safety orange. Yeah, Shooting Star Press is where I'm actually working. But John told me never to put Shooting Star on there because he didn't want people to think that he did the work, which doesn't really make it sound like anything you're doing is very good. And
this is the other one. I think it's funny. So Kevin made these. I don't know if these are for sale, Kevin, right?
No, I made a batch of about 100 of each, and I just gave them out. And then I found out that I was told, why didn't you sell them? Because I realized that I have to. Oh, that's my little mean possum logo that I found, this little blog for. I was like, I'm putting that on everything.
So from this, I'm like, I've got to make a beaver. I've got to make like a little, because I was like, oh, Kevin, did you draw that? He's like, no, I just found it.
And yeah, it was like 100
draw
years
your
old.
own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, give me a beaver, and we'll make a woodcut out of it. And,
did you see my beaver that Carly made? Look, Carly's over there. Did you?
Yeah, that's when I know. I walked right into that. I go, what the heck are we watching here? It's so cool. That's so awesome. And then that scene, she's talking about the depth of field of the photo, and
I know it was
really
good.
Yeah, really cool.
So, Josh, there's somebody in Daniel Soleil. He's on in the chat, not live, but he's in North Carolina also. I believe in Charlotte. No, in Chapel Hill. Daniel, you'll have to remind me. I always want to. He just says hello. He answers from any of those, but he's also. I don't know if he's ever gone to UCDA, but that would be another. I think in Chapel Hill. So, and so Josh is near to Charlotte. So Jeremy Rivers is also here in the chat. He works at the Y in Charlotte, not like as a gym wiper sweater, but like as a designer. So it's always good to know that there are other people, I think, that they're around. So Carly and Taylor aren't that far away from each other, and me and Lorenzo are close physically, and Carol Ann and Naomi are closer physically. So it's good to know that we're all surrounded. I thank you guys so much for giving me a little insight into who you are, and for sharing a little bit about where you've pivoted or where you've struggled. Hopefully it helped. Hopefully it's nice to kind of see each other's faces, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So and I'm going to say this again. So me and Carol Ann are in a mastermind group with Jody, Kim, and man, I'm like blanking.
How do you get it?
4 other people. So I'm just going to put people together. So what I have some questions that I'm going to ask. I'm going to send you a little form. It's like 10 questions. And then I'm going to try to place you with somebody who So one of the things, like Carol Ann's been in the industry for how long, Carol Ann?
If you count my internship, like 11 years.
So
10 years? 10.
So then like me and Jody worked in Denver together, and Karina is probably in between, and then Kim and Arlene they've been, so I think you are the youngest of us in the industry, right? But it's okay. Like, I think it's good. I think there are things that Carol Ann knows that I don't know for sure. And then there are always, so I don't believe it needs to be a group of all the same people at the same level. So I'm just putting some people together who said that they wanted to be together. So if you're interested, so Daniel says AIGA in Raleigh sometimes. Anyway, mostly the Raleigh InDesign user group, but he has done some AIGA events. But I do think getting together with other physical people is really important. I do think that there's other things that I know Brian White, who had to leave early, he does with Prayer for Designers, or a lot of us go to Creative South. I would definitely encourage you guys to do that. I've told Kevin for years to go, but he clearly doesn't believe me.
I want to go so bad. I just can't stand myself. But I'm like, I have to pick and choose where I go, and it's
like to go make that old man yell at you.
Yeah, right, exactly. I got to get down. I hear amazing stuff about it. I've heard from someone else over the weekend about it. It's just, yeah, it sounds fabulous. But I'm working on it. April, right?
It is. It's right. The 10th through the 14th.
Yeah, Kevin, get down to CS. Let's see that. No, I'm working on it. Believe me, it's on my radar. I really want to go. I'm just gonna have to make it happen.
Naomi, what's your question?
So I mentioned that I'm in this like weekly accountability group. Is there like, what is the mastermind? Because I've never been part of a mastermind, and I hear that word all the time. And I'm part of this like weekly check-in thing. But is there a difference in what a mastermind is to?
So I don't, we're probably doing it wrong, but this is how we do it. We meet so you could meet every week, but sometimes that's a lot of a commitment. We're in four different time zones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jody's Mountain, they're Pacific, I'm Central, and Kim and Arlene are in Florida in Eastern. So it's hard for us. So we do once every 2 weeks. And we started out just showing portfolio or telling what we are working on and kind of just getting to know each other. And I do think that that's important for a certain amount of time. But then there are some things that I've said, hey, I want to work on, or there's something that, and now it's not every time, but we kind of have a list of things. So that's how I would structure it. Obviously, you can do whatever you want to do, but it's small. So 6 people is the max, because sometimes with accountability, you can fall through the cracks if it's more than 6. 5's probably the perfect time, but there have been times that we've just had to take time off because we're like, there's some weeks that we just can't meet. And so sometimes we meet once a month. But ideally, we're talking, and we have a Slack group that's just for us so we can share. There have been times where Karina's worked on things, I've worked on things, Carol Ann's worked on things, and then you're pulling. And Jody's doing just stuff with her church. And so it's not really for clients. She does these amazing etching, like hand etches these keys with these lettering that's just freaking amazing. But she doesn't want to do that. You know, she's like really feels like God's calling her to do something else. And so so we're all in different kind of places, but it just really works good. I feel like we get something out, and I learned what Carol Ann's doing from whatever. Sometimes it's just good to have different eyes on your work, because sometimes I don't know if when you get out of school, there's not that just for sure these people are going to have good opinions, you know, or who do I ask, unless they're at your work. But if you're like us and you're a lonely only, or you're one of only 3, or you're trying to do stuff with your side business at night, you need somebody to get some fresh eyes on it. And so I've had a lot of people who wanted to. It is accountability. We probably don't do as much goal setting maybe as we need to, but sometimes it's just like, hey, I'm really struggling with this about life, or I'm struggling with this about pricing or contracts. And so we just share that information. It's just
kind of mutual mentorship.
Yeah, and kind of a safe place to talk about whatever you're dealing with, I guess.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Anyway, well, Kevin, I'm glad you could pop in at the end. Taylor, I will never say you live in Indiana. Now that I know you work at the University of Illinois. And Josh, I'm really glad. So you'll have to do like Josh G or something when you pop in so that I know for sure that it's you. So I'm really glad. And so Kevin, you're going to get him on that Facebook group.
Yes.
You'll have to be friends with him first. So Kevin, Kate. So now you guys can be friends with me and friends with.
I'll make that sacrifice.
And so Brian's back. So, or else. Doc says, so Lorenzo, I'm glad me and you are both in Alabama. I'm glad that you at least enjoy doing the C# for for the gaming. I think it's cool to just have something that you're really passionate that you'd want to stay up till 2 a.m. doing. I love learning. So thank you guys for coming on screen with me. Really, you have no idea how much that means to me, so that I wasn't alone. So anyway. And just give a big prayer for Adam. And so Mark says Jason is the loveliest and he has the best hair. He does have good hair, I guess, Mark. I guess I don't notice. But anyway, we'll see him next week. And so thank you guys for coming. Michael and Regime and Jeremy and Anne and Amy and Alan and everybody who's in here, and Jordan, who I didn't get to say hey to, and Verdui. Just thanks for coming, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for setting it up, Diane.
See ya.
Thanks.
Bye. Hey, I just wanted to tell you about a couple ways you can support the channel, the show, and the podcast. One, you can get extra content delivered to you to patrons only by going to patreon.com/Diane Gives. You can pick your method of how you want to give and pick your amount. And then my favorite way to build websites has changed a little bit recently. I am now using the Elementor plugin with the Divi theme, which I'm going to share both of those with you in just a second. The Elementor plugin works with almost any theme. It makes almost any theme invincible. This plugin has changed the way that I've been able to design websites. It is seriously a game changer. I fell in love with it after using it to build a website from scratch, and I'm now using it to update the Design Recharge, the Recharging You website. So I'm using it with a different theme. And this is WordPress. So if you're not using WordPress, I don't think this is a good one for you. But hopefully, if you are, this is a game changer. It not only was it doing the custom CSS code for me so that I didn't have to worry about that, it was also allowing me to work at such a faster speed that was just such a game changer. I think I was able to finish the site 10 times faster. I finished the site, multiple pages in about 10 hours. I don't know if it was 10 hours. It was more than 10 hours probably because I was learning how to use this thing. But I really think I could get one done in about 10 hours, 10 to 15, depending on how big the site was, of course. And now I am loading this plugin to all my client sites because it will be so much easier for me to update. I can also teach them a little bit easier how to update it if they feel confident to do that on their own. Where other plugins fell short or have kind of been that I had to load so many things in, now I don't need that. I just need Elementor. I am using the Ultimate add-ons as well. I don't have an affiliate link to that, but I haven't really utilized that as much as I would like, so I'll let you know about that a little later. The other thing that was just such common sense, it was easy to use and implement. I did the site over the Christmas break, and which was about a week and a half. So you go to bit.ly/dr Elementor. My favorite theme, of course, which I've told you about before, is to use with the Elementor is the Divi theme. There are some YouTubes out there that show how to combine those two. I really do still enjoy the Divi. It gives you complete control. If you want this, I purchased the lifetime plan, which was $250. I believe that's the same price it is now. And you can, for the lifetime, you never have to pay a renewal fee every year, which it's about, I think, $80. So you would get to 250 really quick. So might as well just do the 250 and then you can put it on as many websites as you want. I really do love that theme. It is based off of a grid system, and now I need one theme, and I can do so many custom sites. Every site I do for a client is custom. It's based on what they need. It allows me to use strategy and customize for their needs instead of trying to adjust a theme that already exists. And the last thing that I love that I use every day is Audible. Audible has changed me, it's changed my business, and it's changed my life. I listen to more books than I physically read nowadays. I listen when I work out, when I mow, when I have a long commute, when I'm in the car, driving to see parents or going to a conference. I've been able to listen to books at those times. And these books and this app has really helped my business to grow. I have the gold membership, which allows me to get, for I think $14.95, I get 1 credit, 1 book a month. So you buy 1 book with 1 credit. And I can usually finish about 1 book a month. They do have a lot of things that they'll offers that'll do, you get 3 books for $33, which you can't even buy a book for $11 anymore. You really can't buy a book for $14.95, which is what you're getting it for. And a lot of time it's read by the author. There's a lot extra that comes in it that you just wouldn't get. And if there was a PDF with the book and it went on to show something, you still get that PDF. You can still print it out and do whatever workbook or activities the book was talking about, which I really, really enjoy. So if you want to try Audible, and with this link, you get 2 free books. You can go to bit.ly/design recharge. Leave me a comment. And that's it. These are all, just to disclose, these are all affiliate links. So that means if you click on the link and purchase an item, I will receive an affiliate commission. So that's it. Those are ways to support the show. Thanks.